passionate about Cleveland sports.
He's going in! Touchdown!
Browns, Indians, Cavs, the Big Ten, and more.
Cleveland is a city of champions once again!
Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and beyond.
Swing it and drive! To deep right!
Here are your hosts, Andy Billman and Jarid Watson.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and Beyond, a new podcast that Andy Billman and me, Jarid Watson, are putting together. It's going to carry over from the podcast I was previously doing that was titled Just Another Cleveland Sports Fan. We're merging our powers together to bring you this new podcast where we'll continue to talk Browns, Indians, Cavaliers, Buckeyes. We'll talk Notre Dame football, Big Ten, and beyond. Anything that either affects those teams that we love or just great sports talk in general. So thanks again for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe. We're going to be found everywhere podcasts are available. iTunes, TuneIn, Google Play, Stitcher, you name it. Also, follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Cleveland and Beyond. I will have a Twitter account set up shortly, and I'll be getting that information out in the next podcast. So, without further ado, here's episode 1.
Cleveland Browns.
Andy, what's going on, brother? After sleeping off that horrible loss, are you feeling any better about the Browns today?
I mean, I think there's a big perspective and then there's a small perspective. The short answer is no. That was a really damning loss for the Browns yesterday. I think that's captain obvious to anybody. I think the biggest problem is, you and I kind of touched about it when we were talking last night, is, same old Browns. That was a classic loss we saw with Hoyer, or you insert quarterback, Whedon. That was a typical loss. I mean, look, Baker Mayfield played great. There's some excitement on this team with Myles Garrett. Denzel Ward's a great player, so the talent's much better, and I think that's what makes this loss ever more frustrating. The Browns have found ways to lose again, kind of similar to what we've seen in the past. The special teams is definitely an area that's going to get hammered home. You're going to hear a lot of people today talk about the special teams, the referees, and that's fine. But really, at the end of the day, what it comes down to, and what I've noticed in sports and watching it forever, 28-14 lead, feeling good. Here we go, rock and roll. You get the ball back too, strip on a fumble on a pass, and then quickly score. And the Raiders from there kind of rolled in. Before you knew it, the Browns were down.
It was fast.
It was so quick. And again, that's the thing. All this trickulates back to me is, the Browns still don't know really how to close out or win games.
Right. Who does that fall on?
I think it falls on Hugh Jackson.
Yeah.
I think that falls on the myriad of the coaching staff. To be fair, Haley is play calling these, and when you're down your 10-yard line and you're up 14 points, make a pass play. They also had some issues on the goal line earlier in the game, so I think all that's fair, and it should be put on the coaches. I will say this too: the Browns had a lot of drop passes yesterday. I thought that interrupted things.
Yeah,
and
Callaway,
we're kind
Landry,
of
both.
Yeah, Callaway had a rough game. David Njoku had a bad game, in my opinion. I thought he had a rough day. I know Callaway made that one big play, but that was really all Callaway had yesterday. The bigger thing to me is, and special teams too on the back end, the defense that was raved and should have been. They played really well the first 3 games. Finally came back down to earth, crashing. A lot of those plays that were big passing plays, they weren't just in tight windows. I mean, they were wide open. A lot of wide open receivers yesterday, and you can't give David Carr that kind of time. And again, when you do not close a team out and you turn over the ball and you give a team like the Raiders that are desperate, you could tell the Raiders were playing desperate to win yesterday. They were giving it everything they had. You're gonna lose those games, and the Browns, and we've seen the Browns lose these games. The difference is, in the past when I saw the Browns lose, I didn't see the hope with the talent around it. This one really hurts because the team's got some talent going forward to win. The other thing is special teams. The special teams is just a mess.
Peppers needs to not run back anything anymore.
And Callaway. And Callaway.
Yeah, and Callaway, exactly. And then again, we've talked about this. Who do you even put back there? I mentioned Duke Johnson, but I don't know whether that's even a plausible replacement back there. I don't understand. I still don't understand why Peppers is even allowed to run the ball out of the end zone.
I don't know
if he's in the end. I don't understand it. Who allows that? Who encourages that at this point? It doesn't take long to see that the kid just does not have the speed, or he's not elusive. There's nothing special about him on special teams. Nothing.
No, the Browns' return game right now, punter kick, is very poor. It's so low. And then I'll add this too. The thing that was also damning with special teams, on the reverse end, the Raiders really did a nice job of taking kicks and putting it in position to really be successful.
Oh, yeah.
They really took chunks of yards out.
A team who had awful field position for the first 3 games of the season ran all over Cleveland.
Well, that's the thing, too.
And had good field position yesterday.
The thing is so frustrating, and Lynch is a good running back. Lynch had a career day. He really ran all over. Really, the Browns had a hard time slowing him down. And there have been signs of that throughout the year, but it really got exploited yesterday where the defensive line – the defensive line's done a great job all year with pass rush. We've seen this with the Jets at times. I think we saw it with Kamara and the Saints. We've seen holes and we've seen gaps, and we certainly saw it with the Steelers. Well, here it is again. A running game really just took over the momentum of the game, and Lynch really carried it at times, I thought, with momentum in this game. It shouldn't be forgotten. I thought Lynch at times had runs that weren't just 8 yards. It felt like 8 yards, and he was just carrying the Raiders.
But at the same time, if I don't know, I think that I could have lived with Lynch having a career day had the Browns had a decent pass rush or put some pressure on Derek Carr, because we did see a few times that when they did actually get pressure on Derek, he threw a duck or two. They did get 2 sacks, but that was it. He had all the time in the world in the pocket, and receivers were about as wide open as I could have ever seen. I don't know whether we blame that on a banged up secondary. We saw Mitchell get hurt. Not that I'm looking for excuses, but come on. If they could have at least done what they had done in the past 3 games and continue to put pressure on the quarterback, I think that could have been what saved them in this game as well. You could look at a bunch of areas, but that's one too.
Yeah, the quarterback pressure I didn't think was poor, but I didn't think was as a high level as they had been. But again, the receivers being open in this game, they were not just inches; they were yards apart. How many times did we see a pass play and it's like, who's on him? See another pass play.
Just look at Amari Cooper with 130 yards almost, and he's
and Bryant tore us up too.
And Jared Cook and Jordy Nelson with important catches.
And that's what it goes back to. It's same old Browns.
Yeah.
That kind of loss yesterday is the same old Browns. It's the same old crap. And, Hugh Jackson's a nice guy, and he really does seem to be a good old soul, and you feel bad for what's going on with his family here in the past few months. But, this is a business at the end of the day, and he deserves to get paid. But this is why probably at the end of the day they need to start thinking, if this continues, what's our exit strategy with Hugh Jackson? I just don't know how much longer you can continue with this plan. I just have not been impressed with him at any moment so far. Even the Jets game, I didn't really feel like at any moment he was the reason why we were led to victory. I just don't think it can continue much longer with him as
what
coach.
What is he getting out of the players? I don't know what I don't see them digging deep to win ball games. That was it. When the spot was overturned on that first down, that was about it for the Browns. That was it. That was the moment. Yep. That was it. They're not going to be able to pull this out. You didn't see them dig deep to do what they needed to do to overcome that adversity to win this football game.
Yeah, and again, I don't know how much longer you can continue with that. On the positives, I thought Chubb had a really breakout game. Hyde keeps running the ball well.
Yeah.
Wish we could have seen more of them in the overtime. I think that would have been a good thing. Baker is still really good. He's going to be, I think he can be a great quarterback. When he was coming into the league, I was not as high on him as others, but I've been proven wrong. He's a very good quarterback. He knows how to win. Just got snake bitten yesterday, plain and simple. It wasn't his fault that the Browns lost. So there are some positives to take away. And again, the bigger picture here is when you're a team like the Browns and they've only won one game in 2 years, this is kind of part of the process. And the difference is when we've lost these games in the past, when, the collapse against Jacksonville with Whedon and Cecil Shorts, or the bad loss with Andrew Luck and the Browns with Hoyer. Those losses that right, and we won't do that today. But I don't know if you saw the hope. In this case, the talent on the field, you can see it. I mean, it's visual. It's there.
There's moments of electricity. They have flashes of some of these players. I mean, again, we talked about, is Landry even going to turn out to be that spark? And he didn't have the greatest of games yesterday. But when you're looking at Ward, when you're looking at Mayfield, when you're looking at Chubb, when you're looking at Myles Garrett, overall, these are players that belong in the NFL. And it's the first time we've seen guys that look like that in a long time on this team.
No, I agree. And I think that's the finishing note on the positive. On the back end, again, 28-14, you got to close out those games. When you're up 8 points and you have the ball, you got to close out those games. We haven't talked about it. The refereeing in this game was very poor. The fumble that was taken back by the Browns should have been a fumble for a touchdown. The first down play, which is the most atrocious one, I've never seen that play overturned on a yardage mark like that late in the game. It did, though. The Raiders also had some bad calls throughout the game, and, I mentioned this a lot throughout my time. You got to play through referees. The Browns have too much talent. You can't be hung up on bad calls. And the Browns got the ball in overtime. They had a chance to win, and they couldn't do it. So, referees here, referees there. But, I heard the thing that does trouble me, listening back to the comments, the only thing I heard players say slick field. It's like, slick field, playing conditions, referee. I don't want to hear that stuff.
Both teams had to deal with it.
Win the game. Win the game. The Browns do this way too much since they've been back. Oh,
and who allows that narrative? Who allows that narrative to continue?
I know.
You.
I know. I am ready for a new coach. I will be very surprised if I would say anything differently every week we do this. I am ready for a new coach. I'm ready for a fresh perspective. And again, I'm tired of the excuses. The little things are what the Browns don't do. Special teams is a glaring weakness on this team. Clearly, they figured out the kicking game. Hallelujah. Everything else is a fiasco. They allow big yardage back, and the penalties on the Browns are still just a calamity. There's times where it feels like the Browns have a penalty almost every other play. They had penalties on delayed games, on kicks.
Yeah. And then you're going to have the excuse again. Well, they're young. I don't care. I don't care.
No, I think this one, I guess what we're concluding to is on the coaches. A lot of this stuff, it just trickles along. Same old stuff, same old song. The Browns have to get up, and we'll have to see what they do in these next 4 games. These next 4 games, I think, are all winnable, and they're all losable because of who they are. The Ravens are obviously going to be a tough test, seeing what they did to the Steelers yesterday in Pittsburgh. So the Browns are going to have to be ready for this. I think it does lower expectations. I think it sour grapes the Jets game, which was one of the things that I had thought of. I thought that Jets game was great. It was a great moment for the city. But those games in the regular season really get soured on with losses like this. And that's why, at the end of the day, I think that loss, it's hard to determine in the moment.
Yeah.
But now looking back at it, this is what it is. It isn't the worst Browns loss I've ever seen on Sunday, but gosh, it hurt. Really, really, really hurt. And again, I think the reason why is it's same old Browns. Like, bad teams, when the talent's on the field and you lose like that, I think you can say, well, that's why. When you're starting to see what's going on here with this team and you can see the talent around it, you see Nick Chubb making big plays yesterday. You see Baker Mayfield making a great pass to Callaway where the team looked like it was dead, and they're making plays to win. And Myles Garrett's being, having a hard time being stopped. At the end of the day, the Browns just still, at the end of the day, can't do it. And one more thing, too. When you're up 28-14, you get a strip sack that really turns around. 3 and outs. The Browns have to start learning. It's not boom or bust. Getting small drives, getting some first downs.
Right, just
really
to give their defense a break.
Rest. I mean, really plays a big part. Yes. The Browns are not good at that. They had several 3 and outs again yesterday. And it needs to be brought up. They have to start getting more first downs, progressing more positive.
It's almost like they use the big plays to stay in the games as opposed to big plays to pull away and finish the games.
Yeah. Again, boom or bust. The Browns are boom or bust, and this crap of, it's going to come. Well, these losses are damning. You saw Myles Garrett at the end of the game. I don't know how much more you can keep losing like this before the season gets away from you.
Yeah, I
hate saying that.
But it's the truth.
It's the truth. You can't keep losing games like this, or it's going to unravel your team. So we'll see what happens. Ravens next week. I think it's good they're playing the Ravens because it will spark them to play. And it's an interdivision game. The Browns need that game. They have
and thank God it's at home.
I think that's a good thing too.
Yeah.
I think the Browns again. I really got to start thinking: how do we start winning these games and chopping away? And again, in the distance, the defense that was lauded. When you're lauded, that's great, but you also have the right to really be, get some criticism. The coverage, you mentioned it, pass rush, I thought it was okay, but it wasn't great. And the run defense really has not been there all year, and it finally got exposed in a loss. So all those things need to be taken care of. You see the bigger positives. You see the things going on. I guess what we're trying to say is, yes, the Browns are actually better than 1-31. But this is a product of 1-31 too, the year after.
Accountability and focus. And focus.
Yeah. The other quick things real quick, you look around the league, and this is where I'll finish on this point. You see the Bengals game, you see the Texans game, the Eagles-Titans game. All these games are close and they're tight-knit. That's why these things that the Browns have to do, these little things have to start coming into account, because if they don't, they're probably not going to win these games. These games are tight. They come right down the wire. And when you make small errors or big errors as a strip sack in that one moment in the third quarter, you're going to lose. Browns have got to start doing that stuff. God, it feels like I've been saying that since 95. But it's true. I mean, the Browns have got to start doing that stuff. And again, I think the coaching staff probably takes more than brunt on this. But it's a collective team loss at times. And, we'll see what happens next week. I think it's good they're playing the Ravens. I think they need to get up for this game.
We can't forget the fact, though, that the Ravens are going to come into Cleveland looking to punch them in the face.
Well, that's okay. But, I mean, you got to expect that in any game. The Browns have got to start playing for themselves and start playing for, like, we're good enough to win these games. We don't need to be back-ending on emotion and all that, because the Raiders is a good example. The Raiders were playing desperate. They needed that game. They needed that game yesterday, and you saw it towards the end of the game. If the Browns keep, you can always find things like that in the NFL, I think. I just play through it. Win the game. You have enough talent now. This isn't the same old stuff with, Whedon, and we're throwing the ball to, players we know are not going to be here very long.
A couple more losses, though, and it could start looking that way. Just with attitudes. Well,
attitude, sure, but the talent's there. I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't think that's going to happen. Maybe I'm being too positive. I think the Browns will actually win some more games.
I might be more pessimistic right now, just because, I said sleeping on it didn't make me feel any better.
No, the loss was terrible loss. It was terrible. But, terrible.
I mean, I can say this, though. Baker won't allow that to affect him. I mean, and, going through this loss for him might be a good thing in the long run. I mean, if I got to turn it around and look at silver linings, he's got to experience these things. These are rookie quarterback struggles that we saw to him yesterday.
Played like a rookie at times.
Yeah, a few times. But he's also had he also was able to dig deep and keep the Browns in the game, retake the lead. Those guys, I mean, they did fight. But they didn't finish.
Again, the Cowboy play was it's a fantastic play that really turned the game around. So, more to come. But again, the little things, coaching, special teams, and the run defense. The Browns have had a really hard time stopping a run, and I know that they're sacrificing things for to probably lose a little bit on the running game. But really, even the Jets, when the Browns tied the game on Thursday night, the Jets ran right down the field.
Yeah.
Wow. So I think the running game is something else to focus on. We'll have to see how the week plays out. It sounds like I know the cornerback Williams, I think his name is, looks like he's going to be out for a while now, and that's a key loss for the Browns. He was such a good player for him. That's the other thing too. You're going to start seeing things. Mitchell, sorry.
Yeah, Mitchell. Well, I think they had to bring in. Didn't Calhoun come in off the bench too?
Calhoun came off the bench. I just think you're going to start seeing, like, Terrence Mitchell, though, he was a major contributor to some of these turnovers earlier on. So, as the year goes on, you're going to start seeing the bench come into play. And my point is, I'm not naive. The Browns have a good first layer, but I don't know if their depth is as good as the other teams. And so I think that's another thing, too, to keep in mind. I think as the season goes on, you're going to see these guys like, Calhoun, and, he's a good player, don't get me wrong, as a backup, but he is a backup, and that's going to be exposed, too, as the year goes on. So we'll have to see what the grip and rip, but, take a negative into a positive. You got to love Baker Mayfield, and you also got to love what the Buckeyes did. This year, Mr. Buckeye over there in Maryland, and that was a good win for you boys.
Ohio State football.
It was a given win. They were handed that win. Thanks, Penn State. I am not going to celebrate that game the way that it was played. It was that first half from Ohio State was something that I would like to forget very quickly.
They came out, really had a hard time getting into. It's the first time I saw an Ohio State. For people who don't know, I'm a non-partial fan. I'm not an Ohio State backer.
No, you're a Notre Dame guy.
Notre Dame guy, and my dad's family went to Purdue, so I'm a huge Purdue Notre Dame fan. But going back to Ohio State, that was the first time under the Urban Meyer era I saw the team play tight. I thought Urban was tight in that game. I even thought his small interview with Ronaldo on the sidelines didn't go clean.
Right.
Ohio State really came out tight, played tight, and yet, through all Penn State's muddling, it was only 6-0, and then they had that weird 94-yard play. Great play by Penn State. I thought that was a breakdown by Ohio State, obviously. So it's 13-0, and as the half was coming to an end, I was thinking, I was like, gosh, feels like it should be bigger than 13-0, and then all of a sudden,
should have been way bigger.
It should have been way bigger, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, bang, turnover. Ohio State capitalizes, get a quick score, and I thought that really set the tone for the second half. 13-7 in a game where Ohio State was outgained, 3-1 going into halftime. I got to look up the stats again. I had them here. 293-93. So if you're being outgained 293-93 and you're only down 13-7, hey, you're in the game. Well, so to your point that you alluded to the top. Yeah,
and we realize that, Penn State made crucial mistakes on play calling. And again, that came down to coaching for them. When they're going for it on fourth down instead of kicking a field goal that would have given 3 extra points. When they taking the end of the game with McSorley and not would they run a draw play? You're talking about a kid who had 400 all-purpose yards, and that was a coaching issue. It was a coaching issue. Penn State blew that game. I had Penn State fans texting me, even at halftime, going, "They're going to blow this. They're going to blow this because look at what's being done on the field, and it's coming from the sidelines." I don't know.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that you can learn from this, going back to the Browns for a second.
Yeah.
The Browns had some bad coaching. I don't think coaching cost them the game. I think it was a contributing factor.
Right.
Again, the referees are going to be talked about a lot today. When it comes to Penn State, Ohio State, I thought actually Franklin had some bad moments that probably cost him the game. McSorley played like a quarterback who was going to go for the Heisman. Really had a great game. And to what you're alluding to, Franklin not going for a field goal in the third quarter. And, the thing is that also needs to be kept in mind. When you have McSorley, who's playing really a game where it's like, if he wins that game, you kind of start thinking, man, he's in the Heisman running.
Yeah.
And that's how exciting it was. So as the game continues on, and you have a fourth and 2 in midfield, game on the line, no timeouts left, buck left to go in the game. So this is the game. Shotgun handoff. Rough way to end the game. I mean, rough play.
That's what I don't understand. Why do you go away from what works?
I don't know. That was a tough play call for Penn State. And again, the bigger thing about this game that I noticed that put in perspective for Ohio State fans that feel good about, Ohio State should have lost this game. Should have lost this game. Penn State lost this game. Like I said, I thought the Raiders did enough to win. In this case here, I thought Penn State lost the game. But the one thing I will say about Ohio State that I noticed as this game continued, when their players get in space, whether it's Victor, whether it's Dobbins, whether it's KJ Hill, when they get into space, they can not only make big plays, they can score touchdowns. And that is what really separates Ohio State, even from the Cooper days and from the Tressel days. And they had some wonderful players. David Boston's, the Glenn's, Eddie George's. Eddie George is certainly an elite player. I have not seen as much talent on the field for Ohio State as I'm seeing with Meyer in all the years that I've been watching, Ohio State and everything else. These players, Dobbins, Victor, they just don't break plays. They break them for touchdowns. Yeah. And that's something that's a very big positive for Ohio State. I think, Haskins, we haven't brought him up, and we should. Haskins, I thought, played well for his first game on the road like that. That's a tough spot for a kid. So I thought he really played well. He did enough to win. I didn't think he played great. 3
touchdowns, one interception,
right.
Nearly 300 yards. He was 60+% completion percentage. I mean, and he's – that kid's gonna be good.
He's really good. He's good already.
He is. I don't know that I expected him to have the arm on him that he has, and he's accurate.
Well, the thing is about this game, we didn't allude to for the Browns, and we should allude to it. The drop passes, going backwards real quick, and we'll go to this game. The drop passes in the Browns game was a disease. Same thing in Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Ohio State game, drop passes. And, in a player like Haskins, I think it really set the tone for the first half. When you have that many miscues with your wide receivers, it naturally starts playing on you mentally.
Well, a lot of their big plays came out of checkdowns and small, little screens and stuff too. I mean, that wasn't a game where they were going downfield, with the ball a lot. It was a lot of, again, in space. It was a lot of stuff in space where they just, a lot of yards after catch. That's what did it.
Seeing what Ohio State is, I think that's very smart because these players can really get open and they are really dangerous in space. I don't think that's a bad play. I don't think it's a bad play call. I would do the same thing. But I thought Haskins did enough to win. The first half was miserable, the drop passes. And again, the Penn State defensive line really controlled the game in the first half and most of the second half. But again, when plays need to be made, Ohio State made them. And the other thing, going back to Penn State, they had several 3rd and 1s, 4th and 1s, and the Lions just never could get that play to really send them over the top. I know they were up big late, and then the collapse happened. But there were moments in that game where they could have put them away, where you had 3rd and 1, where you had 4th and 1, even before the 4th and 2. And the Lions could never make those plays. So kudos goes to that. Chase Young was great for Ohio State. He's a good player. When Bosa comes back, Young and Bosa are going to be very dangerous. So look, the overall picture, you had a game where you should have lost and you won on the road and you just went on the road, won at Penn State on the road. The bigger picture is Ohio State's in a great spot to make the playoffs.
Yep, the rest of the season is very winnable.
Right. So it doesn't mean you're the best team. It doesn't mean you're going to beat Alabama, but it means you got a chance and you're in the spot. And again,
that's all anybody wants is a chance.
That's right. The thing I can't get over is how good Ohio State is in space. They make plays. The Victor play was fantastic. I mean, that he literally self-created that play. And Dobbins in space, gosh, he makes big plays. And Haskins is accurate and really makes enough plays to win games. I think Ohio State's in great position for the playoff. There's a long way to go. Injuries can happen, whatever else. Yeah. The only thing from afar I'd say from Ohio State is the penalties, mental fatigue at times during these games. If they can tone that down, I think that will save them a back-breaking loss to a Michigan State or Michigan. But truthfully, when you look around, Ohio State, Clemson, LSU, Georgia, Alabama's on a different line right now. But those four that are right there, I mean, they're all ready to go.
Well, Clemson almost lost it all with Syracuse. That
they figured it out.
They did. But to your point that we talked about, Syracuse is a legit school. They're a legit team right now.
They're back.
They need to be. You got to pay attention to them.
Yeah, they're back. Syracuse really showed a lot of guts to go on the road and play the way they did.
I wish they would have pulled that out.
Yeah, Syracuse is going to be there for the rest of the year. But, Clemson, again, that's a team that's been there in those spots and has showed in that game. Chase Bryce made a long drive to win the game. Made a big pass on fourth down. Made enough plays. The only thing about Clemson, they need to get Lawrence back because I don't think Bryce on the road in a big spot is going to be able to do the same thing. But that's neither here nor there today. Syracuse really came up big on defense. Great special teams really kept them in the game. Syracuse is talented, young, and fast. And they hit hard. They play hard. They have done a nice job. Syracuse is back. I don't think Syracuse is going anywhere. Syracuse and Clemson from years to come will be a fun game as long as Dabo's there too. I really think that game had a lot of juice to it. And then for my Irish, great win over Stanford. You really saw Ian Book really come again to another level. He played a great game. Dexter Williams looked great in the game in his first game back. Irish D did give up some yards. I thought the only time when Stanford made plays is when it was perfection, meaning they executed it properly. The Bryce Love touchdown, everybody blocked. He had a thin gap, hit it perfectly, scored a touchdown. The touchdown pass later by Costello, again, same thing. Perfect in a box, can't do anything about that. Yeah. So outside of perfection, Notre Dame really showed up big. I think Notre Dame, as the season goes on, is going to get to the level of Ohio State. They don't have as much talent as Clemson, Ohio State, LSU, Georgia, but Notre Dame is good enough to beat those teams. They're right there with them. Ian Book has just really come into his own. I was so impressed by him and what he did in that game. He played great. And anytime they were open,
they pulled away, and with those two touchdowns in the fourth quarter, that's how you win. You got to close it out. You got to close it out.
Yeah, Notre Dame next week goes to Bot Tech. We'll see what happens there in Blacksburg. They had a good bounce back win over Duke. That will not be easy. And the other game is Syracuse and Yankee Stadium. That's going to be a tricky game. I think that's the game. I think the Irish will probably get by Bot Tech. I'd be surprised they lost them at Blacksburg. But I think Syracuse is going to be tough. Syracuse hits hard. They have athletes. I think that's the game for the Irish. So, in the bigger picture of things, now we've seen how everything's laid out. Knowing that the SEC is going to beat up on each other, LSU goes to Florida, then they have three home games. Their home games are Georgia, Mississippi State, and Alabama. That's a tough stretch.
They've got the tough schedule. Alabama's got
they really do. They really do, yeah. Alabama really does not play anybody, as you and I alluded to last night, until Mississippi State. And then they got LSU, and then they got Auburn, of course, in the year. Everything else in between is not great. So Alabama really did get a good schedule break this year. They're not going to be tested. That should be kept in mind. I think LSU is good enough to beat Alabama in a big spot if they can get by these games, but that's a big if. Georgia has not played to how good they are. They had a sloppy win in Tennessee, sloppy win in Missouri. We'll have to see how Georgia plays in the coming weeks. They have really played down to their competition, in my opinion, in these last two games. But Georgia has enough talent to win it all. So the bigger picture, if those teams beat up on each other, and now that Stanford's out because of the Notre Dame loss, Clemson, Notre Dame, Ohio State, key thing is it's September. If they win, the road's theirs. And then all the other SEC teams beat each other up. The road's there for those teams. So if you're an Irish fan like myself, keep winning. Everything plays itself out. You should be good. Ohio State, keep winning, everything will play itself out. You should be into
far and above. No one else in Ohio or no one else in the Big Ten has a shot. Has a shot. The Big Ten is once again. I'm really upset with the Big Ten. It's painful sometimes. We need a strong Big Ten.
Well, the bigger thing is the SEC is that good this year.
Yeah, I know.
Kentucky is really good. Even Florida has bounced back. They're playing well. You look at a team like Mississippi State, they're not a bad team, and they have 2 losses. The SEC, last year the SEC was down for them. Yeah. This year the SEC is by far and away the best conference. It's not even comparable. I know. I'm a Big Ten guy. I know it stings, but it's true. The SEC.
Yeah. Do you think that there's a chance that Alabama not being tested throughout the season could catch up with them in?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what I'm hoping, that they're either going to come in not prepared, or that they're going to make an assumption, or that they're going to. I mean, that if you're not facing any adversity, and then all of a sudden you're playing teams that are gonna come at you, I don't know, that might be the way that Alabama falls. That's the only way I think Alabama falls.
That's the only way. I'll end it on this for college football. Alabama, though, with that said, is the Golden State of this year. I mean, they are really good with an excellent quarterback who's going to be in the Heisman running. Yeah. Alabama's going to be hard to beat. They're going to be hard to beat. Even with all you just said, it would not surprise me if Alabama really doesn't get touched either. I've been very blown away by how good they are. That's the thing, though. When you get pumped up, sometimes you can get knocked down a little easier. Time will tell, but Saban's such a good coach.
Yeah, he probably won't let him lose focus.
I don't think he will. I think the game to circle is LSU. That's the game. I think everything else, I think they'll probably win. But the LSU game, the SEC championship, those are the 2 games. And, for next week, real quick, for those of you who are curious, the game really to watch is Texas OU. Texas has had a good bounce back after that horrific loss to Maryland. They get to play OU in the Red River rivalry. Then LSU, Florida will be a good game. And as we mentioned, Notre Dame, Tech, that's going to be the big ABC game next week in Blacksburg.
Good. I want the Buckeyes to get a little break here.
Yeah, I'm sure it's homecoming week with the Hoosiers, right? That's always a good homecoming game. That's always a fun one.
Cleveland Indians.
Moving on to the Tribe. The Tribe season, which has been long and, boring, and I love the Indians and I watch every game, but a lot of people alluded to it. It's been a hard year at times to get into the inning because of the Twins, and now the division fell off. With that said, the regular season has ended, and for the first time compared to 16 and 17, the Indians come in, it feels like rested, rejuvenated, and really aside from Bauer and some stitches with Yan Gomes, they're actually pretty healthy. They're the most healthiest team by far compared to everybody else in the AL.
Yeah.
Everybody else has got stinging injuries, and really the Indians do not. For people who don't know, Yan Gomes did get stitched up after Saturday. There was a play at the end.
Did you see that yet?
Still haven't seen it, but
banged his thumb on that backswing and split it open. It looked bad when it happened. A lot of people thought he broke it, and thank God he didn't.
Yep, X-rays came back negative. They said he's going to have to stitch us up at midweek. Look, I mean, unless something drastically happened with his hand and his nerves, that should be fine.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't a year, though, where we have – I mean, that would have been a huge loss for the Indians. I mean, this isn't a year where you just are swapping out Yan and Perez. You're just not doing that this year. It's not – Yan solidified his spot behind the plate.
Jan's had a really good second half. And, there's several mentions here. Melky Cabrera's had a really good second half. Thank God he wasn't signed at that period of time when the Indians will let him go. Melky's been a great right fielder. And really, that's something else we should allude to as well. The Indians lineup for the first time in a while is really set. You'd have the Chisenhall and Geyer situations in past years. You're really not going to see that. The outfield's pretty set. It's Brantley, Kipnis, and Melky Cabrera.
And all these guys are all-stars.
Yeah, I know. They're pretty good. Kipnis has played really good second half. And then you got Donaldson, who really came on strong in the last 2 weeks. So Donaldson, Lindor, Jose, who's had a bad 6 weeks. He had a good Saturday. You got to believe he's going to snap out of this. It was great to see him what he did on Saturday night. So he ends the year on a positive. First base, I think you're going to see Yandy Diaz and Alonso. Alonso should carry most of it, but don't be surprised if you see Yandy Diaz come up in spots because he's been raking the ball well. And then you got Edwin. I mean, your lineup is pretty set, and that's great. I think that's nice for the Indians. I think in past years we've made the Chisenhall, Rajai Davis, switching, Greg Allens of the world, switching in and out. It's nice to know who your outfield's going to be. It's nice to know what your starting lineup's going to be. And the Indians have not had that in past years. They will. To what you alluded to, Yan Gomes was at a great second half. He really finished the year strong. That's the one thing. I don't know how much you're going to see Roberto Perez this year compared to past years. I don't think you're going to see a lot of him. I think Yan Gomes is really going to be the mainstay in the playoffs.
What we haven't talked about, too, is how nice is it to have Brantley with a full season of just solid baseball. Like, I really wanted him to come back and have a year like this. And he's quietly had a great year.
No, the Indians have really been allowed to tinker and work out kinks in this run. And Brantley is a product of that, I think, too, because he doesn't need to put a lot of pressure on these guys to win games. Kipnis figured out his swing. He got a lot of time in center field. I think those things help. The Indians have really been built. And, Brantley being, to what you're alluding to, Brantley being around and being around healthy, it's hard to put into words. It really solidifies the lineup and the outfield. Him not being there, you don't realize until this year, really put a dent in the things.
Yeah, really there was. I mean, it was you were having to shift to fill a hole. I mean, it just makes everything so much easier. You don't have to worry about this line. You're right, though. This lineup's set. There's no change in anything. They go into this postseason as solid as they've been in the past 3 years, and pitching wise, what we're talking about now is rotation. The only issue that we have is Bauer going to be in the rotation, or is he going to come out of the pen, and who's going to throw that? Who's going to throw the third game? Is Bieber the guy right now?
That's a good question. I mean, I think the more and more you think about it, I think if Bauer can go and he gets clearance from the trainer and from the staff, I think Bauer's going to go. Kluber game 1, Carlos game 2. There's no questions there. You got to believe in what you got there. When it comes to Clevenger in game 3, or whether it's Bauer and Bieber, I mean, I think there's going to be I think it's going to depend on what happens in game 1 and 2, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think Bauer will be ready to go. I think Bauer's going to start. If I had to put my money on Vegas, I would say Bauer starts game 3. I'd be surprised if he didn't. I just think he's going to want to play that game, and he's earned the right to play that game. He was in the Cy Young running until he got hurt. So I think, I think Bauer is going to be the big question mark. Again, even the bullpen's kind of been figured out with the core 4 with Miller, Hand, and then your righties are Simber and Allen. Allen's had a really good last 5 weeks.
Do you bring Tomlin? Do you bring Tomlin along on this?
Okay, so if you want to break it down to roster spots, let's figure out here's what I would do. I want to explain the hitting and the outfield and the infield first, and then I'll go to the pitching and then explain why or why not Tomlin makes it. So you got your 9 with Edwin Encarnacion. So those 9 are definitely in. You got Yandy Diaz, and you got to have Roberto Perez as a backup catcher.
Yep.
I think the debate's going to be Greg Allen, I think Rajai Davis makes it because of his experience, so that's 12. You got to bring in Eric Gonzalez. Eric Gonzalez has had a strange year. He's had a typical sophomore year here in baseball where he didn't have a clean glove. His bat was okay, but he's really there for his glove, and his glove wasn't sharp at times. But I think you have to have another backup infielder. I think Eric Gonzalez on this team is a little shaky, but I think they bring him just because you have to have another infielder, even though you have Kipnis out there and all those guys can play different spots. I think Gonzalez makes a team. Yeah. I think Greg Allen makes a team, so that's 14. So I think Greg Allen.
You have to bring Greg Allen. Greg Allen's been hitting the ball.
Well, I think I would too. I think Greg Allen is going to be one of those guys that's going to be right on the fringe. I would bring him too. So that leaves you 11 pitchers. So I think you bring the starting 5, Bieber, and obviously Bieber 2. You bring the core 4, so that's 9. So you got 2 more spots. Oliver Perez makes 10. He's definitely making the team. So your 11th is going to come down to Dan Otero, Dan Ramirez, and Tomlin. I would bring Tomlin because of his experience and because he can pitch length. I don't think Dan Otero's been good enough at all to bring on this team. He's a nice guy, but he just stinks. He's not had a good year. And Ramirez doesn't have the experience. So I think Tomlin is I think Tomlin's an easy decision. I think you bring him on. And again, he's not going to pitch in big spots. But truthfully, do you really want – let me ask you, Jared. Tomlin, Jarid – Tomlin, Otero, and Ramirez. Who do you give the ball to?
Yeah, and how long are we looking for? Are we looking for 1, 2, 3 innings?
Well, that's my point. Tomlin's going to come in when the game's been lost, and so you want someone to kind of settle down the game. So I think Tomlin in those spots would be better at that. Not saying he's great, but he's been in a World Series. My gosh, and he's won a World Series game. So I think he's earned the right to be there. I don't think it's as debatable as people think. I think this is the easiest year for rosters for the Indians. I just don't think it's that debatable. Again, I don't think Otero's earned it. I think Ramirez is too young. So I think Tomlin's in, and you got to bring on Oliver Perez. He's earned the spot. I think the only guy is Greg Allen. I think Greg Allen's going to be – I think there's going to be a lot of debate between him and Geyer and others. I think Greg Allen's going to be more.
Greg Allen's proved himself, though.
I do too.
And Geyer,
I do too. I'm a Greg Allen
I just
guy.
don't know that Geyer's.
I'm with you.
What's he done? Where's he been?
I agree. I just don't think Geyer has earned the spot either. No. But I think that's going to be in. I think they're going to be debating that all week. I think it really. See, I don't think the pitching is as troubling. I really think it comes down to Geyer. Geyer, Greg Allen. I think those two. Because I think Roger Davis has to make the club because of his speed. And because he's had big hits in big spots.
Besides the Astros. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I think this is the easier year for the roster.
Besides the Astros, the fact that 100-plus wins, the American League is tough this year. They're finishing strong, ignoring the fact that they got one hit shutout against one of the worst teams in baseball, the Orioles yesterday. But forget that. How do we match up with the Astros? This is about, in my opinion, it could go either way. It's a coin flip. And I know that we ignore the records, ignore the fact that the Indians were in a division where they didn't really have to fight too hard to win it, and where they kind of at times struggled to get to that 90-plus wins this season, which, looking at that, makes me feel bad for the Rays, of course, but not that bad. But overall matchup-wise, there's no reason. The Astros are clicking, but the Indians can beat them. That's a given. It's not. The Astros don't have this wrapped up.
No, I don't think anybody feels that way. I think the one thing that all these teams, look, the Indians or the Red Sox or Yankees or Astros or A's, I think all 5 are in play to make the World Series, which makes everybody dangerous. I don't feel that way about the National League. I think it's really only 1 or 2 clubs. Honestly, it's the 2 teams that are playing today at home, Cubs and Dodgers. I don't think any of those other teams are really worth the snuff to win it all. But when it comes back to the 5 in the AL, I think those teams can win it all. I even think the A's can win it all. I think the A's are that dangerous. I think they're that young and they can hit the ball hard. I know what you're getting at. I think it's good that the Indians are playing the Astros and not the Red Sox, Yankees, or A's. I really don't want – the A's gave the Indians fits this year. So I really don't want to play those clubs right now. And the Astros, not that the Astros were easy. The Indians and Astros played a lot of tight games. But the Astros, Verlander, that equals itself out because of the familiarity with the Tigers when he played there. And they've hit Keuchel. I don't know. I don't think it's that bad either. But they are the Astros. They're very dangerous. The thing I like about it is they won last year. I don't care what anybody says. You naturally take a breath after you win a championship. It's just nature of human life. You don't have as much anxiety to win something. So I think that also helps. But looking beyond that, the Astros are fast. They can really hit the ball. Jose Altuve's always killed the Indians. So you gotta be aware of him, keeping him off the base path and keeping him away. And the other thing about the Astros that the Indians have been plagued with this year more than other years is big innings. The Indians have really had a hard time at times getting away from big innings, it feels like. And they can obviously get into that quickly in this team. The Astros bullpen, the Indians bullpen is probably about even. Ozuna is pitching really well. He's a great closer in a big spot. We'll get into more of the baseball playoff preview that we'll do on Thursday. But From afar, I like that draw. I think the other things to notice is, the NL, I would give the Cubs kind of the Dodgers. But whoever makes out the AL, Indians included, they should be the heavy favorites to win it. If it's the Cubs, I get it. I think the Cubs have enough talent that really they can beat anybody anytime. Dodgers, I kind of think that way. Rockies, no. Brewers, they're a nice story. Yelich is having a great year. I don't think they can win in a big spot. The Braves aren't ready. So this is really the year. It's World Series or bust for the Indians. And if they make the World Series, they should win it.
There's no excuse for anyone disappearing.
That's right.
That's gonna be my fear. Is Jose disappearing or Encarnacion completely disappearing, or I can't see it happening to Donaldson. In my opinion, I think Donaldson is going to light a fire for this Indians offense in the postseason. I really have probably too much confidence in his bat right now, but that's how I feel.
Well, no, Donaldson played really well. I mean, to keep peace of mind, Jose really played well in 16 in the playoffs, so that was good. Kipnis also had a good playoff run in 16.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these guys have hit in the playoffs before, but, it's Captain Obvious. Edwin got hurt. Lindor outside the Grand Slam didn't hit. Jose didn't hit. And the Indians lost. Bauer and Kluber didn't pitch well in 3, 4, and 5. Carrasco pitched in 3. Sorry. Kluber didn't pitch well in 2, and they got away with it in 4 and 5. They didn't pitch well. So, the Indians have to pitch well. Kluber, I wouldn't say pressure's on him, but it's going to be fascinating to see how he does. I guess, we should allude to it. We'll get this more on Thursday. It's not a given anymore with Kluber in these spots. I hope he gets back to what he was in 16. Yeah. 17 was such a scary experience. You just hope
it's funny to say that, and Kluber still had an amazing season, but you're right. I don't think it's a given with him.
No, I hate saying that, but
and I definitely don't want them to. He needs to get the rest he needs. We know that. That's a given.
Well, he did. He really didn't pitch hard towards the end. That's the thing. That's how we should leave this, and I want to get a couple other things of MLB. The Indians have had chances to tinker, rest. They did not have that luxury in 16. In 17, because of the winning, it really kind of got lost in the muddle, right? This year, they've had chances to rest players, make adjustments, all that other stuff. There's two schools of thought that should get you extra ready to go in the playoffs, or are you not playing enough games that are competitive? And so your competitive edge goes away. I think it's more the latter. I think it really helps the Indians going in here. I like how they were able to tinker. They gave guys rest. They allowed more things to happen. You didn't hear the words Cody Allen or Brad Hanford last week, which was great. Andrew Miller, you could not feel better about Andrew Miller than he is now. We know his sharpness isn't there from 16, but he hasn't really played a lot. He should be ready to go. The Indians are really full force and ready to go this year. Haven't felt that way in 16 and 17. Do this year.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It's good. Real quickly, great job by Tampa Bay Rays to win 90 games with Kevin Cash. That's a great job by those guys down there. Where your neck of the woods is, the Orioles, full-on fiasco. They didn't win 50 games. I told
you they gave up. They knew what was coming. They knew that the rebuild was coming, and they just did not care. They did not care.
Yeah, those two teams. It very bizarre year. I'll wrap the Central last. So going to the West, Mariners have the same old Mariners, enough talent just to not get in the playoffs. They really got to figure out how to get over that next hump. And Mike Scioscia's out for the Angels. He's not going to come back. Interesting times with the Angels should be better than what their record is the last 2 years. Too much talent. They really have enough offense to carry themselves. They've had, bad pitching injuries. Their pitching injuries really caught up with them. It's not fair. I feel bad for Charlie. I hope Nagy, he was the pitching coach for the Angels. I hope he lands somewhere, either with the team or somewhere else. He's a good guy.
Yeah, the Angels they're that team that they've got the names, they've got the faces. Yeah. They should be much better than what they are.
Much better than what they are.
And that hurts baseball overall, in my opinion.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Because Ohtani can play. He's going to have Tommy John.
But nobody cares.
Doesn't mean No one cares. I know. No one cares. Bigger picture on that baseball, we should talk down the road, but you're right. And then the Central, I feel World Series are bust, but the future is bright because the Tigers, White Sox, full rebuild mode. I really don't see a lot of hope there. The Royals, I thought, played better towards the end of the year, but they still lost 100-plus games. And even with O'Hearn and Whit Merrifield's a star, for people who don't know. He led the league in hits this year. He's such a good player for the Royals. Mondesi, Salvi, those guys are good players. But, again, the Royals, they have a long ways to go. The Twins took a huge step back, not just a step back, a huge step back. They were not supposed to be that far back. The Indians in the Central, it's really built to win for 2 or 3 years.
I think, yeah, absolutely. There's no reason why they shouldn't.
Correct.
I mean, you've got a few. I mean, what do we do with who are we losing? Cody Allen's, is that his, and Miller's?
Miller and Cody Allen. I'd be surprised if both come back, or if either comes back.
Yeah.
And that's for another show at a different time. But yeah, the Miller and Cody Allen factor. You're always going to have, does Rajai Davis come back? Melky Cabrera. I don't know if Melky Cabrera comes back.
Right.
Those are Donaldson's not coming back. So those are the kind of things that will always be there for the Indians. But as we have seen, they've maneuvered and made things that work. And, having Brad Hand and Simber there that are locked down will help a lot. And you got to hope some people come through the system to help out with the bullpen, and your pitching's there. So the Indians are there.
Yeah, there's no blame it on the Dolans excuse anymore. Right. You can't. No. They have done what needs to be done to try to get this team ball players, and they've done it.
No, agreed. And then real quickly to wrap up, and then we'll get on to the Cavs. In the NL again, Cubs are good. Everybody else, though, to me, it seems like the years are coming. Like the Braves, they're an up and coming team. Phillies, they're an up and coming team. You do see some clubs the Brewers are finally here. They had a great year. I thought the Kane signing really helped them out a lot. And Yelich is a star. And by the way, forget that kid's name. Jesus. How do you pronounce his last name? He used to play for the Indians. He's playing now for the Brewers. Let me give me a second. I'll get his name.
Yeah.
But the Brewers, the Brewers are up and coming. But you can tell in the AL. Yankees, Red Sox, I think even the Astros are kind of here for a while. You can tell in the NL there's some new clubs that are coming up, and they're going through a big change. Jesus Aguilar.
Yeah.
Aguilar, he's playing well for him. But, in the NL, you're seeing these new teams in there. The Cardinals are not in the playoffs for the first time in a while. The Giants are not in the first. They've really taken a step back. So new blood in the NL, but, in the AL, it's the same old. Red Sox, Yankees, Indians, and a little bit of Astros, and away we go. So same old with those guys.
Yeah, that East is tough.
Thank God we're in the Central. Take it every year. I have no problem playing White Sox and Tigers 19 times a year.
Cleveland Cavaliers.
Real quickly to the Cavs. Training camp did start up. For people who think spring training or training camp in the NFL and MLB is boring, I think the NBA is the worst. It's impossible to follow what goes on in the NBA preseason, and I actually think part of that is because the season's so long. All right, that said, a lot of Bob Ross drawings from the Cavs. They did a lot of good things and funny things this year. New Cavs, as we alluded to. The couple things real quickly, and, again, hard to really tell in the preseason with the NBA compared to other sports. The J.R. Smith thing, where is he going to fit on this team?
Right, and again, I had said this yesterday, he's kind of acting, he's taken on some sort of strange leadership role, which, I don't know. I've met people in my life where they disappear when somebody wants to take over as a leader, but then all of a sudden that leader leaves, and out of nowhere they show up, and you're kind of surprised, like, whoa, wait a minute, you actually know what you're talking about here. JR is kind of inserting himself that way at this moment. I mean, there's obviously a leadership vacuum that's happened with LeBron gone. I don't know where Kevin Love even fits in with that. How does Coach Lou handle the fact that he's actually got this team now? It's his. What the dynamic is, just it's going to be strange, extremely strange.
A lot of new parts coming in and out. I think you're going to see a lot of the following. Rodney Hood, you're going to see play a lot because he's only on a 1-year deal.
Right.
You're obviously going to see a lot of Sexton playing. I think you're going to see a lot of Clarkson playing. I think you're going to have a lot of those moments where it's kind of like what the Tribe was back in the 02, 03, 04 days, where you're just going to see a lot of players play just because they need to see what they got. I think that's going to be part of the Cavs thing. That's why the record doesn't hold as much value as it did in past years, obviously. The only thing is the Tristan Thompsons, the Kyle Korvers, where they really fit in. Will they play throughout the year? I don't know. Meaning, will
Tristan seems to think so. The way Tristan talks.
No, I agree. Tristan's talking, and I like to hear that. I'm not going to say it's a bad thing. I like to hear that. But, we'll see how it rolls throughout the year. And the J.R. Smith thing, it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening. I'm not surprised they're going through this because J.R., he is at the end of his career. And in fairness, too, looking at rotations and stuff right now in the preseason, that doesn't mean anything.
No.
J.R. Smith's a veteran. He doesn't need training camp.
Right.
So for him not playing his rotations, I don't know how much you can really put stock into that. Be interesting to see what happens with the Cavs as the season goes on. Interesting doesn't always mean positive. So hopefully
it could be fun.
It could be fun. And if people have that outlook with wins and losses, I think you'll enjoy this team. If you're really clamping down on wins and losses and you're going to break down after every loss or every win, I think you're going to go crazy. That would be my advice for the Cavs. But, they have started. I will say they're very positive. I thought they had a very good start to the preseason, meaning no drama, no real dramatics.
That is a nice sign, too. That's a real nice sign that there's no drama.
It's a big thing for this team. You don't need any you never underestimate that. You don't need weird things coming into camp. The Cavs had none of that this year.
Do you think bringing Channing back was a positive, or are you indifferent? I think so too, and I think so. Again, going back to that drama thing, just the vibe of the team having Channing there, I think helps.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I guess how I'll leave it with this with the Cavs. I like the fact that they're still going for wins. I hate tear down, rebuild, studs mode. I think it's a terrible way to run an organization. I think that's easy ways out.
There's plenty of people that say that they should have done that.
And I think they're wrong.
Yeah,
I will debate that to the day I die. I hate that.
And stuff. I agree because I don't think it matters for the next couple of years, and I don't. There was no reason for it. It doesn't matter.
That's a simplistic way of saying just give up, get high draft picks, and see what happens. It doesn't work that way in sports, in any sport, not just basketball, baseball, football. You can't strip it down the studs and expect great things to happen. Everybody looks at the Sixers, but ask the Bulls how it worked when they tore down the team after Jordan. Ask them how it worked.
Right.
It was awful. And really, until LeBron came back, it wasn't fun for the Cavs either. So, stripping things down to the studs is not the way to go. I'm glad they're doing it the way they're doing it. It doesn't mean they're going to have great things and great playoff victories this year, but I like that they're doing that because it creates a culture of you need to win. We're rebuilding, but you need to win.
What's Kevin Love going to look like this year?
I think it's what he did in Minnesota. I think he's going to bring some good positivity. I'm a pro Kevin Love guy.
Yeah.
I like Kevin Love a lot. I know people dog him at times. I'm not that guy. I love Kevin Love. I think he's good for the city. I think he'll play well. I don't know if he's going to win you. I don't think he's going to bring you 10 wins that you weren't supposed to get. But I think he'll give you 4 or 5. So I
don't know that he's a leader that he wants to be either. I don't.
Right. I agree. Yes. But time will tell. Give this team time. Again, you got to see how they mature up. And then, just enjoy the ride with Sexton. See if you get some stuff out of Hood. And, in the meantime, if there's ever a time to go through this, it's now. Because no one's going to be Golden State anyways. So don't really worry about it.
Again, it doesn't matter for the next couple of years. None of it matters. That's why it's difficult to even have the conversations when people want to throw a fit over moves that teams make or what. It doesn't matter. It's given what's going to happen this year.
Maybe Houston, maybe a couple of maybe the Celtics and Sixers. They should make runs. Yeah. Like those teams should talk that way. There's a group of 3 or 4. That's about it.
Right.
The difference between Alabama and Golden State. Alabama's only 1 game. Golden State is 4. That's it's a hard uphill climb. The other thing too, LeBron in LA. Yeah, obviously we all wish he was still in Cleveland. Very strange times over there for him. I strangely feel sympathy for him. I think he's getting way too hard of a time in LA. And again, I wish he was in Cleveland. I don't wish him ill well either. And I just don't think he's being treated fairly. I'm surprised how that's going so far. It's going to be an interesting watch. And again, the Lakers are built so weird with Rondo and, Lance Stevenson. Rondo's a good player, but every place he's gone, like, the team's been like, good riddance.
Well, and I was just going to say that is, does LeBron really want, and especially with Stevenson, he doesn't want to, does he want to play with these guys?
I don't know.
I don't either. It was one thing.
Not my problem.
It was one thing when it was that young core group of kids, but bringing those two in, I don't know what that does. I don't know what they're looking to. Is this Magic running the show? Is this him and Magic collaborating?
I think it's a collaboration, but Magic is, Magic's not as heavy-handed or as iron-fisted as Riley, but, I think it's pretty clear, Magic's run the show.
Yeah.
So, but again, not our problem. I'm not going to be sweating it out. Lakers don't win. I've never been a Lakers fan, nor will I be this year at all.
No.
So, not my problem to have. And again, I think you and I alluded to it about 2 or 3 minutes ago. Really comes down to Warriors, Rockets. Let's see who, can beat that out. And then maybe the Sixers or the Raptors or the Celtics give them a run in the finals. But truthfully, folks, that's what you're looking at. I don't really see anything that different. That kind of makes for a boring thing. Speaking about boring, I don't know if anybody noticed, but the Ryder Cup came and went.
Nope, I didn't notice, and I told you that.
No, I don't think any of us did. I'm a huge Ryder Cup guy in past years, but this was the first year I really did not watch. Didn't watch a second of it, which is shameful, as I love the Ryder Cup, but just did not get into it this
Why
year.
is golf struggling to find its place lately?
Yeah, that'd be a good thing that we should go sometime too. I think they have a hard time relating to people who are outside of the higher echelon of life, and I mean that. Like, seems like a high class, upper class, elite sport. It's not affordable. It's not cheap to go play on a golf course and get golf clubs, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the biggest problem. It's hard to relate to the things like that. That aside, I think golf still is a wonderful game, and the United States got whipped. They were up early, but Europe really cleaned the clock out and won pretty good. The Ryder Cup now, 9 out of the last 12 years, has gone to Europe. So
that's probably part of the reason why I haven't paid attention. I'll follow the majors, and admittedly, I haven't followed any of the majors in probably the past 12 months. But I'll follow the majors. But the Ryder Cup, again, the U.S. losing on a regular basis doesn't really appeal to me either. So.
No, I agree. And I think, again, that goes back to these overall themes of, what makes golf go. Obviously, Tiger Woods is a bigger story than that, and I'll be interested to see where that goes next year. But, they got to figure out the Ryder Cup 2 years from now when it comes back to the States, because maybe I didn't see the ratings, and maybe the ratings are better than what I thought, but I don't remember hearing much about this Ryder Cup this year. Really, really, really kind of came and went. Just seemed like it was just a drift in the wind. So it'll be interesting to see what they do 2 years from now. Because the Ryder Cup's a great event, a lot of history. It's very intense at the end on Sundays when everybody plays head-to-head against each other. But no drama this year. Again, came and went kind of the Ryder Cup. And, it'll be interesting to see how they fix that from years from now. Because that's a great event. And it's the first time I can ever remember I didn't watch a second of it. And I love the Ryder Cup. I just didn't get into it this year.
Wow.
Interesting to see where they go from here. Looking ahead, the Indians, again, getting ready for that week.
Yep.
Ohio State on their way, Notre Dame on their way. They have a big game against Vatech. And I guess circling back to the top here, the Browns in these weeks like this are the most draining. It's good they play a 1 o'clock Sunday game. It doesn't linger. But it will be interesting this week to hear what happens. Do they maybe fire Amos Stagg as their special teams coordinator?
How long's he been there? He was
only this year. This is his first year. 4 months. 4 games in. 4 months. 4 games in. 4 games in. That's it.
Well, that's all I need to see. I've seen enough.
I've seen enough. No moss. I think we're good. But the other thing too, Baker, his growth. This is a big week for him. It's easy to have press conferences when you win. Let's see how he talks to me this week when you lose.
Apparently, so far, he's taken full responsibility for that loss. He's putting it on his shoulders, is what I've heard.
I saw the comments, and they were very good. He's a great leader. He's great in front of a microphone. But again, these weeks can be tiresome because that's a horrible loss, and it's what everybody should be talking about. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I'm interested to see going into this week too. Are we going to hear more about, hey, we probably need to slow down the running game. We got to do little things to win games on special teams and everywhere else. And, we're going to put more of an emphasis on the running game when we're up.
I wonder how many times I'm going to get aggravated with what Hugh says this week. That's what I'm going to count too. I want to see what kind of responsibility he takes throughout this week, or if he is the typical deflecting, insecure head coach that he has come off as since we've known him.
Yeah, I agreed. Good news for the Browns is they only got to put up with it through Thursday, because after that, the Indians will be the main focus starting on Friday.
Thank God.
I think that's a good thing. And with that in mind, we'll get more into the Indians playoffs on Thursday. We should know by then more about Bauer. Hopefully by then we'll kind of get a clear picture. Again, tricky spot when you've been out for so long. Hopefully he gets a chance to start. I think that'd be good for the Indians.
Yep.
And again, I think I want to end on them. I think this is the best. Even compared to 16 and 17, this seems to be the team that is the most ready to go heading into the playoffs. They've tinkered. They've gotten proper rest. The Indians should be ready to roll. It's not going to be easy at all. Going into Houston's, not an easy trip, but I feel much better about them going into this run compared to how I felt in 16 and 17. In 16, they made it all the way to World Series. So it's a good feeling for the Tribe. I feel good about this year.
Yeah,
I feel good about it.
I'm fired up. I'm looking forward to it. And again, we'll roll into that. We'll do a postseason preview this Thursday. That'll be our next episode, I think. And we'll keep this thing going because plenty to talk about, plenty to complain about, plenty to rave about.
Never dull in Cleveland. Never dull in Cleveland.
Why? I sometimes wonder why I was burdened with this struggle in my life to be a Cleveland sports fan.
I love it. There's nothing better than sweating out a game on Sunday, 8:00 at night in overtime. So it's you gotta love it. And again, better times ahead for the Browns, and it's good to see talent on the field.
Absolutely.
They just gotta start figuring out these little things and start learning how to win games.
Thanks again for listening. We're going to do another show in a couple of days covering postseason baseball. Can't wait to dive deeper into the Cleveland Indians and their road ahead, their path to the World Series. World Series or bust, as we've said. So for Andy Billman, I'm Jared Watson. Thanks for listening to Cleveland and Beyond. Take care. Bless them.